I understand you're going to take us through one of the silver winners that you think brings up some interesting points to share.
Yeah, so one of my favorite pieces throughout the whole entries that I saw was a piece from Lebanon. It was called PeaceCamo. And there's a particular reason that I really like it. So in this particular entry, it was about challenging the norms of everyday objects that we see and using creativity to change the potential for behavior. So in this particular entry, what the entrant did is they changed the pattern of camouflage gear on the Lebanese army, and they used imagery of the army that had been involved in acts of kindness. So every shape in the camouflage was from a particular act of kindness that that army had been involved in. And even the shadows that came off those shapes was used to create the camouflage. And what I loved about it is that it challenges you as a creative to look at everyday objects and think, is there some way we could apply creativity to this for behavior change? And the options that are out there for us as creatives is to explore anything that we see in everyday life and don't take it for granted. What can you do as a creative person to push that boundary and get people to think about stuff in a new way? So I absolutely love that. It got massive kudos for me for actually being adopted by the army. I think they were really brave to do it. And I applaud them for it. It was an outstanding piece for me.
Just one or two more additional questions I have for you. You talked a lot about what was so great about this piece of work, but is there anything else that you can think of that made it really stand out from the rest of the pack to get it to the silver?
It was the level of detail in the craft really that caught my eye. So the entrant could have just chosen shapes from any random act of kindness that they could, but they actually went to the trouble of choosing images that the army had been involved in specifically. And then they used those shapes and created shadows for every single object. So every image that's on that uniform has been really carefully chosen and thought through. And it's that level of detail and craft that I particularly look for in outstanding work. And also the fact that the uniform itself and the pattern on that can be taken and used for other merchandise. I think it's incredibly creative of them to look at something that's just a standard pattern and try to make something bigger of it that has a message, and it's a really positive message that makes you think differently about the army. So it's the level of detail and thought that went into the craft that made it stand out for me.